This is a much longer video review than I normally do, but there's a lot to unpack about Resident Evil 2 Remake, so I'm just gonna jump right in. But spoiler warning, if you don't want to see any environments or possible bosses, then do not watch the video. You can still listen to it if you want because I don't go into any story details. So let's jump in. Resident Evil 2 is finally upon us, and I'm so excited to talk about this game. First off, I think it's absolutely stunning. I've been seeing some criticisms around the internet saying that the game is overall just not very visually pleasing. I don't really understand where that sentiment is coming from. When I'm playing this game, I'm constantly in awe at how much they were able to achieve in such a dark and scary setting. There are some really gorgeous areas with gore and blood scattered throughout. Everything looks wet, and that's exactly what the director was going for. He wanted the shadows in the game to really clash and make it look like everything is moving, and he achieved exactly what he was trying to do. Overall, I think the graphics were amazingly done. However, I did think Claire's facial animations did look a little bit wonky at times, and every now and then the voiceover would be off compared to the audio. It actually happened at the very beginning of my game, which kinda upset me because it really pulled me out of the experience. Luckily, in my second run, things lined up a bit better. You can tell a lot of tender love and care went into recreating the Resident Evil 2 world, and it really shines through in the final product. One thing that Resident Evil had not really gotten down all the way up until now is the movement in the game. We had the fixed camera angles and stiff movement in the classic games, then Resident Evil 4 and 5 came out with a brand new third-person perspective, and it really made things a lot better. However, the movement was still stiff. It was still the tank controls that honestly made the game scarier, but that type of control setup just doesn't fit in 2019. Then in Resident Evil 6, they really overdid things, allowing you to sprint, slide, dodge, roll, and jump around like a crazy man. And then with Resident Evil 7, they changed the perspective once again, but it seemed like fans didn't really like that, so it made sense for them to jump back into the third person, but really make things overall feel much more smooth. I honestly couldn't get over how great this game feels just to walk around in this world. The original Resident Evil 2 overall has a pretty corny story when you think about it. It's a police station where all these puzzles and everything are happening. However, with the remake, they did the best they could to make it feel like it was within the realm of possibility. Now stay with me on this example. Back when Christopher Nolan took over the Batman franchise and gave us Batman Begins, he did the best he could to make the famous comic book character grounded. And I feel like that's what the Resident Evil 2 remake does with the original Resident Evil 2. It's not as corny as it used to be, which I think is a great change. The original game had an intriguing story about Leon coming into the city to help out, and about Claire going into the city to try to find her brother. Pretty much everything matches the original. However, Capcom managed to turn that story into a more cinematic experience. Unfortunately though, because each playthrough only takes around 5 to 7 hours, the story can feel a bit rushed. Some character relationships don't feel like they should be at the level that they are by the time the game rolls credits. You could say that some of it feels a bit forced, but ultimately it's not much of a gripe because the story that they do tell is emotional and gripping, and it really caught me by surprise just how invested I got into it because it's a story we all already know. Again, it seems like Capcom wanted to execute things perfectly, and they did. Now let's talk about gun upgrades. I personally loved the gun upgrading in Resident Evil 4. It always made you want to keep playing over and over just to get all of your guns completely upgraded. Unfortunately, Resident Evil 2 takes a different approach, making it so you have to find certain parts of your guns to upgrade them. At first, I wasn't too hot on this idea, but overall I warmed up to it. It was pretty cool finding a new attachment to my gun and then it letting me shoot the gun in a whole new way. And with these collectibles for your guns being scattered all throughout the police department, it really incentivizes you to keep searching around the area. And with that comes the scares. I was constantly jumping throughout this game. Zombies would purposely be placed in the perfect blind spot so when you walked into a new room, you would have no idea that they were about to lunge toward you. And these moments were perfectly spaced apart, making it so it wasn't just a jump fest the whole time. The creepy noises and environments also added to the tension. And once again, with attention to detail, zombies will surprise you. When walking through an office, you'll notice that they'll climb over desks just to try and rip off your face. Or hell, if you're walking around on the bottom floor, suddenly a zombie can land on top of you, lunging himself off of the ledge. And don't even get me started on Mr. X. This guy is freaking scary. Not only does he just look so intimidating, but he can kill you in an instant, and you can hear his footsteps from all the way across the police station. Even when you're downstairs, you hear his heavy boots hitting the floor. It really made my heart pound, and I was constantly on edge. I wouldn't say the Resident Evil 2 remake is scarier than Resident Evil 7 or even the original Resident Evil 2, but it definitely still has a place in the survival horror genre. And boy did I have to survive. I was constantly out of ammo. I did a lot of running in this game, and I recommend you do the same thing. At first, I wasn't thinking smart, and I was shooting all my enemies in front of me. This is not the way to play Resident Evil 2. You want to make every single shot count. And I did so in my second run, which made things a lot easier. Seriously, in my first run, I was up against 2 major bosses with like no ammo, and I can't believe I made it out alive. Now, when it comes to the environments, it all basically takes place in or around the police department, but there's a surprising amount of diverse environments. And the team did a great job with the world building, with exceptional attention to detail. Every time I walked into a new area, I would observe the environment and know what kind of shit went down in there. This is the classic Resident Evil structure, of course, since it's a remake, so don't expect the linear approach of Resident Evil titles like 4 and 5 and Revelations 2. You'll be doing a lot of backtracking, a lot of collectibles, and a lot of puzzles, so if that isn't your cup of tea, I don't recommend jumping into this Resident Evil. Maybe Revelations 3 will be more your thing, if that's even a game. Let's talk about the characters. Leon and Claire voice actors did great. However, Leon seems pretty goofy at times. I mean, sometimes he seems oblivious to the world around him. I mean, he walks into an area full of blood and simply says, "Something's not right here." I mean, obviously, Leon, something's not right in an area full of blood. But anyway, I guess it's okay to be a little clueless on your first day as a cop. But alright guys, I want to go on a little tangent. I have a bone to pick with Capcom. I would have really loved if they brought back the voice actors for Ada and Leon from Resident Evil 4. Those versions of the characters are the most iconic, and hell, Ada was voiced by the same actress in the original Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4, and the Darkside Chronicles, and she even dubbed over the live-action actress from the movie. She is the real Ada to me, and it's really odd hearing her voice done by other people. It kinda sucks that Capcom doesn't realize that fans actually care about continuity. Why do you think the MCU is such a big thing? And with Leon, Claire, and Ada and the Resident Evil 2 remake looking similar to their previous versions, it would have been nice to hear the voices we're familiar with. I think it had something to do with the voice actor strike that went down. The original Claire voice actress made a video talking about it, but I'm not really sure all the details. But at least all the main characters portrayed them very much like their older actors. Unlike terrible Chris from Resident Evil 7 with a different look, voice, and overall personality. He was literally nothing like the boulder-punching Chris that we all love. And oh yeah, I'm not sure if you heard, but apparently the new Chris is going to be a playable character in the Resident Evil 2 remake at some point, as the code for his character was found in the PC version. I'm sure this has something to do with a horde mode of some sort. But anyway, the last dumb gripe I have with the Resident Evil 2 remake is where the hell is Leon's Resident Evil 4 outfit? We're getting the classic skin as DLC, but still no mention of our favorite version of Leon. Do you hate Resident Evil 4, Capcom? Everyone loves that game! But anyway, the game technically has 4 different campaigns. There's a Leon A, a Leon B, a Claire A, and a Claire B. Basically, whichever character you play as first, you'll unlock the opposite character's second run, which makes things align a bit better in terms of continuity. But honestly, what is the continuity? There's 4 different campaigns in this game. What actually went down in Raccoon City? Apparently Capcom doesn't even know because they said the events happened, but they're not sure who or how they did them. To be a little more clear, in Leon and Claire's A campaign, you'll go through the main stuff, and the story is a bit more in-depth, whereas in the second run, it's a shorter cut-up version with the same puzzles but mixed up a bit so it's not exactly the same. But anyway, I guess you can just pretend whatever continuity you want is the real one. I personally love doing Leon's first and then Claire's second run. In the second run, you're given new areas that you couldn't access in the first time around. However, you'll still be doing a lot of the same puzzles throughout the game, so once again, it doesn't really make sense in terms of continuity, but it doesn't really matter because the game is just so good. I feel like I've been complaining a lot, but no, seriously, this is probably one of the best Resident Evil games ever. The scares are real in this game. Ammo is scarce and you'll be on the edge of your seat the whole time. It seems like every time a new Resident Evil game is out, people are saying it's the true return to survival horror, when honestly, I think the franchise mostly went back to survival horror whenever Resident Evil Revelations 1 came out. But Resident Evil 2 gives us everything that we loved from the previous previous games and blends them perfectly. In terms of puzzles, perspective, horror, gameplay, bosses, graphics, progression, music, it's just pretty much the perfect experience all around. And I really hope Capcom does Resident Evil 3 next, which things are looking really good because Resident Evil 2 Remake has sold exceptionally well, shipping 3 million copies in just 1 week. Well guys, that's all I have to say today. I hope this video wasn't too long, and if you stuck around the whole time, thanks so much. I'm a bit passionate about the Resident Evil series, so if it comes off a bit complainy, I'm sorry about that. I highly recommend Resident Evil 2 Remake. It's one of the best games in the series and a must play on PS4, Xbox One, or PC. Thanks a lot for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're interested, and I will talk to you guys later.